In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate how to create the top navigation bar of our website. So I have my XAMPP server running. I have my Bootstrap files and folders installed. Let me quickly first show you where these are installed before I begin the actual coding of creating the first index.php file. So I'm going to navigate to my file explorer here, and here's the tutorial folder, which is placed under the htdocs folder. So once you create the tutorial folder, or you can give it any name if you like, but the important thing is to make sure that within this tutorial folder you have your CSS, fonts, and JS folder, which is when you install Bootstrap, these folders are to be copied in the tutorial folder. So once you have these folders here, if I navigate back to my browser here, notice my URL is my local host, and then my port number 8015, and then the tutorial folder. And within this folder I have 3 subfolders, and each of these folders contain various files. If I click on any one of these folders, notice I'll navigate to my fonts folder, for example. So let's go back. So right now I have no index.php. There is no site right now. All we've done so far again is install the XAMPP server, install Bootstrap. So let's open our editor, which in this case I'm going to use Atom. As soon as I click on the editor, by default shows me on my left navigation the tutorial folder and then the 3 subfolders that you see when you install Bootstrap. And the easiest way to open your editor, since I already had this open, I'm going to close it so I can quickly demonstrate how to make sure that you have your folder open in the Atom editor. So let's close this. Let's go to our Explorer. So all you have to do is just simply right click on the tutorial folder and click on Open with Atom. And what this will do is open up the editor for us, and it will show us the folder that says tutorial, and of course all the subfolders within the tutorial folder. For right now, we need to create our first index.php file. In order to create our top navigation bar, the first thing we have to do is we need an index.php file. And that's one of the reasons why when I go to my browser, I don't see a home page or any page. In fact, it just shows me the list of directories within the tutorial folder. Okay. All right, let's navigate back to the editor here. So right click on tutorial and click on new file, and I'm going to call it index.php. And notice new file is created which says index.php. So the first thing I have to do is specify the doc type, which is, I need an exclamation mark first, and then HTML, close my tag, and then start my HTML tag. And notice the way I've configured the Atom editor is to do the auto close, and I can always install the package that does this for me. So I don't have to close the tags, because most times when you're coding, you forget to close the tag and your code is way too long, and then you get some errors. Okay, so it's a good idea to use this simple package that you can install in Atom. And once again, it's under packages. You go to your settings view, open, click on the packages, and you'll see various packages that are installed. And one of the packages that I've installed is called auto complete and so on. So you can take a look at various packages that you can install. The one that I'm using right now is called the auto close. This package allows the automatic closure of HTML tags. So I just wanted to quickly demonstrate this. Let's go back to our index.php. So once you have the HTML tag, we need our header or head tag, and then of course let's begin our title. So here's my title. As soon as I close the tag, I'm going to give this a title. I'm going to call it Redstone Shop. You can of course give it any name you like, and then I'm going to create a link, and rel equals, I'm going to refer this to our style sheet, and of course our anchor tag href equals, and I'm going to say CSS, and then our bootstrap.min.css. Close the tag. Perfect. So here's our first style sheet link. So all I've done so far is just give it a title and then create our first link. So in other words, it's going to go to this particular folder called CSS, which is right here, and then find the bootstrap.min.css and apply that style sheet. Okay, so this is my first line of code. I'm going to use our main CSS also in other words, apply our main style sheet as well. So I'm going to recreate another attribute, and I'm going to call it style sheet href equals, and just call it CSS, and this time I'm going to refer to the main.css file. Close my tag, and then of course my meta tag comes next. I'm going to call it meta name equals, and this will be our viewport. And this is important because this will specify the responsiveness. Okay, so I'm going to specify using the viewport that we use in CSS to make sure that our page is responsive to our tables and anything else that we create inside. And then specify content, and let's say the width equals device dash width comma initial scale is typically 1. The user scale equals no. Close my tag, and this is just a meta tag here. All right, next let's do a simple script here, and my script source equals, and I'm going to use an Ajax script. You can always look it up on the net. This is a pretty standard script, so I'm going to say it's Google APIs.com/Ajax, and just refer to the libraries here, and it's jQuery 2.1.3 I believe is the current one. And I'm going to say jQuery.min.js. Okay, so a simple script that I'm going to run. I'm going to close my tag here, and of course I need to make sure I have my inverted commas. The good thing about these editors like Atom, for example, it tells you when you're doing something right and when you're not. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need all of this, and just simply close my script tag, which is already closed. So I'm going to bring it up here. Okay, great. All right, go to my next line. My next script is going to be script, and this time the source equals, I think it's going to come from JS bootstrap.min.js. Okay, and then close my script tag. Perfect. I have my head closed and the HTML closed as well. All right, so this first part is essentially just giving our site a title, linking a couple of style sheets, providing a meta name using the viewport, and then using or calling the JavaScripts and using Bootstrap. So this goes into the head tags of my index.php file. All right, so far this is our HTML basically, so that we can create our web page or index.php file. We've not started with the nav bar yet, but a couple of things I want to mention before I move forward is, for instance, the CSS main file here. This is not part of any of these folders because we'll be creating our own style sheet, and all elements within this style sheet or selector elements and attributes we will specify within this style sheet. That's why if I go to my CSS folder, for instance, CSS folder, notice there is no main.css file within this folder. Okay, so we will create the main.css, of course, as we go about creating styles for our website. But the reason why I mentioned this within the HTML is because we want to apply the CSS style sheet, and we'll create this file later. All right, perfect. So let's test it out, see what happens when I actually save and refresh our page, what happens. So let me go ahead and just simply quickly save this, navigate to my browser and refresh, and notice we get nothing, right? All we get is the redstone shop on the top left, and that's about it, because all we have right now is just a blank page and a small title that we see on our tab on the top left. Perfect. Let's go to our editor. All right, next I'm going to create the navigation bar on our website. So let's start with the nav class, and I'm going to call it navbar, navbar.default, and then I'm going to make sure it stays fixed on the top. Close my tag here. I'm going to do another div, class, and I'm going to say container. Close my tag. All right, next let's enter our anchor tag here. So I'm going to say ahref, and this time I'm going to refer to my tutorial folder and then my index.php, and then use a class for my navbar brand and just specify the name here, and this is the redstone shop. And let's just do an unordered list here. Specify the class. I'm going to call it navbar.nav. Close my tag and just make sure. All right, great. So far, in the first half we actually created our page, and then the next half we created the actual nav bar, and we fixed this navigation bar to the top of our page. We created a container that specifies for the entire nav bar, and then created the link to our index.php. Let's test it out, see what happens. Let's quickly save it. Let's go to our page. Let's refresh. And notice here's our navigation bar. Okay. Now, of course, I can add to this, for instance, change the color of the nav bar and so on, or the size and the width and so forth. But the basic idea is I wanted to demonstrate how to first create our navigation bar. And notice as I hover over the redstone shop on the bottom, you'll notice the link being displayed, which is to our index.php or our home page. So if I go to my code, and here's the link that we created to our home page. If I do not give the anchor tag here, no problem, it will just not display a link. It'll just create the nav bar and fix it to the top. So I hope this helps. In this lesson, we took a look at how to create our nav bar from scratch, including configuring and setting up our index.php file. So practice, and let's move to our next lesson.